Yep, it's that time of year again. Grotmas is just around the corner, and with it comes a brand new festive miniature. Marching through the snow is the Red Gobbos Tin Boy. This has to be my all-time favourite Red Gobbo mini so far, and hopefully I speak for you guys too when I say I'm super excited to get it built and painted. Now don't worry if you're new, this is a beginner-friendly video, so I'll take you through everything you need to know. Let's get started. Now you should have something that looks like this. This is what we call a sprue. It's a plastic frame that contains all the different components that go together to build our model. In order to remove these parts, all we need to do is clip them out with some clippers. Refer to the instruction manual to see which parts you need. Then when you're ready, hold the clippers like so. To use them, squeeze gently with your fingers and your thumb until the blades meet. Clip as close to the components as possible, and take extra care not to accidentally clip off any parts of the model. Once you have the appropriate parts, we can get building. Start by carefully lining up two pieces that you want to attach, making sure that they will fit together correctly. And then simply apply a small amount of plastic glue. Gently hold the parts together for a few seconds, and there we have it. Continue this process until your mini is fully assembled and ready for painting. These are all the paints that we'll be using. Just 10 paints. With that said though, what colours you paint your model are up to you, so don't feel like you have to stick with these ones. Now don't worry if you've never even picked up a paintbrush before. We'll talk you through absolutely everything you need to know. The first thing we'll be doing is something called an undercoat, and we'll be using our pot of Corax White to do this. Don't worry if you haven't heard of undercoating before, it's really simple. Before we start painting, a miniature needs something called an undercoat. This is where we apply paint to the whole model, and this then acts as the foundation for all our other paints to stick to. There are two ways to do this, using a spray can or by using paint from the pot. In this case, we're going to use paint from the pot. It's normal for the paint to settle and separate in the pot over time, so give it a good shake until it's a smooth, even colour. While you're shaking, be sure to hold your finger or your thumb over the lid to prevent it from opening accidentally. Then push the lid until it clicks into the tab at the back to help keep the pot open while in use. Wet your brush with a little water. I'm using a large base brush for this step. Wipe any excess away on a paper towel so it's damp but not sodden, and then load the bristles up with a little paint from the reservoir inside the lid. Take care not to get any of the paint all the way up to the metal part at the end of the brush, which is called the ferrule, as this can damage the brush as it dries. Just about halfway up the bristles is fine. Put the paint onto the palette to control how much is on your brush, and then we can start applying it to our model. You'll see that this miniature is packed full of detail. If we apply one thick coat of paint, we risk clogging up all that awesome detail. This is why it's important to mix your paint with a small amount of water. By applying a couple of thin layers instead, we ensure we still get to see all those details and we get a smooth finish too. You can be really messy at this stage. Just make sure you get the Corax White into every little nook and cranny and flat surface. You'll notice that the first coat might struggle to stick to the plastic. Don't worry, just keep going and cover as much as you can. Once the first coat is dry, apply a second coat in the exact same way. You'll find the coverage of the paint is much better this time round. And when that's dry, apply a third coat if you think you need to. The end result should look something like this, with the model covered evenly in Corax White. Well done, you've just finished undercoating your model. Once the Corax White is completely dry, we can move on to the silver details. For all these areas, we'll be using lead belcher and a small base brush. We'll be using this to pick out Tin Boy, the baubles, grenades, goggles, and a stripe on the dynamite too. When applying this, thin it down with a little water like we just did. This will make the paint smoother, but it'll probably take 2 coats to achieve complete coverage. Painting in all the main colours of the miniature like this is called base coating. We do want to try and be as neat as we can here, as this will give us a better result and save time as you won't have to do much tidying up later with white. Now we're going to use Screaming Bell to paint Tin Boy's shoulders, Clockwork Key, gun, head details and the Gobbo star. As you can see, some of these areas we need to paint are very close to the other colours, so try and be as neat as you can. But if you do make any mistakes, it'll be super fast to tidy up with the previous colours. If you ever find your brush losing its point, just roll it on the palette while slowly dragging it to get those bristles behaving again. After a few layers of Screaming Bell, we can move on. Next up is Steel Legion Drab to paint the sack, branch of the tree, and dynamite fuse. But leave the tip unpainted for now. Follow the same methods as you've done for the last few paints, trying to be as neat as you can, especially around the white areas. With that done, let's move on to some contrast paints. For the Gobbo's face, some baubles, the stripe on the dynamite, tree leaves, Tin Boy's shins and left eye, we're using striking scorpion green. Contrast paints are semi-transparent, so when painted over bright or metallic undercoats, we get some really nice bright colours and awesome effects. Take your time and work your way around all these areas until you're done. One coat here should be plenty. Next up, we're using Blood Angel's red to paint the Gobbos jacket and hat, Tin Boy's body armour and the bow on the dynamite. You'll see what I was talking about in the last stage here, is when we paint the contrast paint over the silver body armour, we get this really cool coloured metallic effect. Once again, one coat of this should be plenty. For the star on the tree and the tip of the dynamite fuse, we're using Bad Moon Yellow. This is a really nice bright colour and will tie all these areas together. Nice and easy. We're making real progress with our mini now, there's only a few areas left to paint. For the Gobbos goggles and the periscope lens, we're using Asurmen Blue. These are quite small details, so just be as careful as you can not to make any mistakes. Once that's done, it's now time to tidy up the snow on the base, fur on the Gobbos hat, beard and the teeth using Corax White. You may need to apply a few layers here, but if that's the case, don't worry. Next we're going back to contrast paint and applying Apothecary White all over the different white details we can see across the model. This is a great paint to use for achieving depth and shadows on white details. We're really close to finishing our model now. Next we're going to apply a shade paint, Agrax Earthshade. We're applying this over Tin Boy and the sack and tree. Shade paints are very thin and are designed to slightly tint flat surfaces of the miniature while settling into the recesses. You'll notice how this creates depth on the miniature by darkening down all those recessed areas. They're very similar to contrast paints that we used earlier, but rather than colouring areas, we're using this, as its name suggests, simply just to shade certain parts of the mini and add definition. Okay, with that done, you can leave your mini there, or you can follow this optional stage. To finish off the mini, let's apply a dry brush highlight to the snow and fur using Corax White. If you haven't dry brushed before, don't worry, let's go through it together. Okay, let's grab our dry brush and dip the bristles into the reservoir inside the lid. We just need enough to cover the tips of the hairs like so. To prepare the dry brush, take some paper towel and start removing the moisture from the paint by rubbing it in circular motions into the paper. Just be gentle when doing this so there's still paint on the brush but the paper doesn't rip. As this motion gently removes the moisture, you can see the trail of paint becoming more faint, which means the brush is ready to use. Now all we're going to do is gently brush over the top of the edges and details like so. Look at how it catches on all those raised areas without getting any paint into the recesses. This is the magic of dry brushing, a quick and easy way to highlight the raised areas on your model. With that done, that concludes this tutorial and our mini is finished. All that's left to paint is the base rim using Steel Legion Drab, and there we are. This is such a unique model and it's really fun to paint too. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. Well, that's all from me. In the meantime, if you're looking for more tutorials, tips and tricks, check out some of the other videos on the Warhammer YouTube channel. Or alternatively, you can head to a Warhammer store where our friendly staff are always happy to help. Thanks again for watching, see you next time, bye bye!